know a whole lot about Mr. Gratacap, except that he probably came to the United States to make his fortune, like many people from England and Scotland and Ireland did at the time. What he did bring with him, though, of course, was this secret formula of how to rigidize and preserve leather, which I have learned is something that goes back to a documented manufacturing procedure that apparently was so old the Romans documented it when they were attacking these heathens called Scotsmen, where Hadrian's Wall is in England. Because what I do remember is that the leather shields that they used were very lightweight, flexible, and the Romans were fascinated because they were using these bronze and metal shields that were heavy and cumbersome, and these Scotsmen were running down the hills at them with these shields that were fairly resistant to arrows and deflecting debris and what have you. And so this got handed down because I believe there was a company in Scotland called Pendry, if my memory serves me correctly, who was using that process to rigidize and make protective helmets. I don't know if they ended up being fire helmets or police helmets in Scotland, but Gratacap obviously had that know-how, and he brought that to the United States. But he was a luggage manufacturer at the time. He was making very elaborate steamer trunks for wealthy people that traversed the Atlantic on ships, and the process was desirable because the leather didn't dry rot, because he imparted something to the leather to keep it from doing that. And he could also form these trunks into rigid corners and stiffen them up and make them protect the contents. I think the most amusing thing is you go a million years down the road, and I'm working my first year at Cairns and Brother. My uncle, who I loved dearly, I was the purchasing agent at the time, and it was important for me to understand all the process work in the factory. And he said, go back out there to the leather dip tank where we dip our helmets, the 5As, and learn about the procedure and document it because you need to have a purchase specification for the materials, which I was a little bit dumbfounded because I figured at the very least you have some purchase specification. But the double secret formula uses some secret things that I can't share with you on film, but it uses pine tar resin and a certain solvent that makes the pine tar resin go into solution so that you dip the dried leather helmet into this and it would absorb this material and rigidize. And when I went, this was again around 1977, I was all of 22 years old. I went back there and there was this little guy with an apron working diligently, treating the leather helmets in batches, which is the way it's still done today. And I asked him, what do you put in there? And he basically shrugged his shoulders and said, I don't know. I put this and I put this and I put it together and I put it in that bin and that tub and I pour this stuff in it and we're done. So, but my question is, how much of this and how much of that? He said, I don't know, I used this. And he held up a stirring stick, which had all this resin on it. And on the end of the handle of the stick was basically the recipe for how to do this. And that, I have to be honest, blew me away because I figured someone had that written down somewhere. But the only place that it existed was on that stick in the back of that plant in the darkest part of our factory where this black art existed that we used to harden leather helmets. Folks want to know what happened to the stick. I have to tell you, I don't know. I think it yielded to a more professional process. We ultimately did document everything. The joke amongst us years ago was when we were going for our ISO 9000 approval, we knew that some of our procedures had to change because there was no way ISO was going to accept that as a manufacturing process.